Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to a brand new video from my F1 2020 My Team series, and this is the pre-season video for season number 7. If you guys did miss the ending of season 6, the championship finale decider at the Brazilian Grand Prix, then be sure to check that episode out, because it was an absolute corker, a titanic season 6 was, between myself, Pierre Gasly and Charles Leclerc. Obstacles along the way. Hamilton is our teammate in the first half, George Russell the second, a new fan favourite livery with the Vodafone red and silver chrome, kind of harking back to the older McLaren days, and as a whole that season was so action-packed, really awesome, and actually a neat achievement. We've now actually had every single episode of this series achieve over 100k views, so thank you guys so much for that support. But heading into season 7 now, this video is going to go through all the info you guys are going to need before the first round. But before we get into that and the rest of today's video, this one's actually sponsored and brought to you by NordVPN. NordVPN offers super fast servers, so no matter where you are in the world, you can use the service and still not kind of get a downgrade on your actual download and upload speed. It's actually a VPN service that I've been using personally for 2 years, like literally no joke, it's right here on screen, not lying about it. I actually have been a customer of theirs for 2 years, so when they came to me wanting to work with me like this, that was really sick, because I already know how great it is to unlock content across the pond. For example, if you are an avid watcher of Netflix or Amazon Prime, for example, in lockdown, you want to watch that content. Sometimes there's specific shows that are locked because of where you live, basically anywhere in the world, so you can actually go ahead and change your location geographically with the VPN service and unlock those shows. And actually, funnily enough, I think it also works on F1 TV, so if you're not in a position to, get a TV service to watch Formula 1, you can actually use the VPN service to sign up to F1 TV online and watch the races that way. And if you go to nordvpn.com/aarava or use the code aarava on this site, you can get a 2-year plan plus an additional month at a really massively reduced discount. On top of just unlocking content on site, it also just gives you a bit of peace of mind in terms of that privacy you get with a VPN, because if you don't use any sort of VPN, your IP knows what you're doing all the time. So that gives you that peace of mind, that full privacy, and also protects your data if you use it also on your phone. You can get NordVPN on your phone or any device, and if you use it on your phone, let's say on public Wi-Fi, that protects your data, and so no one can spy on you and see what you're doing. As I said, I've been using this service as a customer for 2 years, so it's pretty cool that I can actually work with them and bring you guys this discount as well. So without further ado though, let's get into the rest of the video. So we're just going to be tying up loose ends in the end of season 6 and a nice overview of what we achieved. Obviously the Drivers' World Championship and the Constructors, so it's our 3rd Drivers title and actually our 4th Constructors. If you remember, we actually won the Constructors as a team in season 2 without actually winning the Drivers, because obviously we lost to Leclerc back then. It seems so long ago now, but yeah, the double title in season 6 with the aid of Russell. I'm adamant we wouldn't have won the Constructors if we retained Hamilton as a teammate. Hamilton, if you watched along with the series, he's very much at the tail end of his career. He's been in such bad form for the last few seasons, so Russell coming in as a super sub for the second half of the year was a real key to getting the Constructors, because Ferrari and Mercedes were so consistent with Leclerc and Gasly constantly being up there, and Verstappen and Giovinazzi not being too bad, obviously, and they were doing a lot better than Hamilton was, so very much needed. But yeah, we did the business. But as ever in Formula 1, you can't rest for too long. You have a little bit of a breather over the winter period, you reset, and everyone gets put down to 0 points, and you go again. So here we are going through the activity timeline towards the end of the season, and very crucially, that important teammate negotiation period.
The window for driver contract negotiations has opened.
So it's time to have a pretty crucial discussion now about our teammate for this upcoming season 7, and also that means what our team is going to look like into season 7, because we are going to have a refresh, as we have been doing in the past few seasons, of our team. Now, there were a few options that came to mind and were on the table, but really, in reality, after mulling it over, I think it's time. It's finally time to embrace my actual real-life esports team, Team Quadrant. If you guys have been living under a rock, you probably don't know. I mean, I'll be surprised if you don't, because where have you been in at least my world and my channel? You'll know that I'm a part of Lando Norris's esports team called Quadrant. And after deliberating when was the best time to maybe do some sort of a collaboration here with the brand, with the team, and to bring it into the series somewhere, I think now is the perfect time. In-game, Lando's AI has actually been on it. He won 2 races last season in Season 6. He looked very quick at times, and he has been consistently quick and at the front of the field when McLaren have been good in the last 3 seasons of this series. So I think he's a good sign now. I think he's got to the point where if he comes to our team with the facilities we've got, he'll be 100 rated, and it's going to be pretty damn sweet to have a full Team Quadrant rebrand. So with that, before we go into negotiations with Lando's AI, we're going to welcome Quadrant AAR F1 Team. So we got some pretty nifty new threads there, as you can see, actually modeled by George Russell, because he's technically still at this moment in time in the game, still part of our team, but we are now going into negotiations approaching Norris, rated 91 as a base driver stat. So you can see, from where he began at Season 1, he's already grown himself quite a lot, but he's accepted the approach. And when he comes to our team, guaranteed with our HQ facilities, that 91 rating will go up to 100. We've just got to make sure we outbid McLaren. Obviously, they'll try their best maybe to retain, but we've got a lot of money. I mean, over 100 million there, and it's pretty damn easy to sign him. We've signed him to a 25.02 million contract. Probably the biggest contract I think I've signed for any teammate so far in this career. So our Lando bot in-game is getting the absolute dollar. But he's looking pretty sick in that Quadrant outfit, and I'm sure we will as well, our character in the game. And obviously the car is still to come. And some of you may have seen the car already, because I did actually design this Quadrant car last year when I actually, first joined Team Quadrant. We did it as a live stream on my Twitch channel, but the reveal for the rest of you will be coming in a little bit. We just want to go through and show you also my brand new helmet for the upcoming season, going back to a lime green. Now, I want to point out the fluoro lime green here for Quadrant, by the way. It's actually a different shade to the fluoro green that we had originally for the Jensen Button colors. That's the reason why we had white and that lime green, neon green at the start, was because it was meant to be mimicking Jensen Button's colors from Brawn GP. The fluoro green for Quadrant's actually slightly different, so although the helmet maybe looks quite similar to what I had from Seasons 2, I guess, and 3, it is a slightly different shade, and we've also got the Quadrant sponsorship on the helmet as well, which looks rather lovely. But now it's time for the moment that I'm sure a lot of you have been waiting for. If you haven't already seen this car in the flesh when I made it originally back in November, here is our brand new Quadrant AAR F1 car for Season 7. So there she is, a very, very strikingly different livery once again for a new season of this My Team series. We had such a big change in Season 6 with the Vodafone Mercedes livery, and this is another massive change to the fluoro green. I think the specific color code is a bit of a meme on the Quadrant socials, but it's I believe it's D2FF00, I think, if I remember correctly. But yeah, looks really lovely. Quadrant branding everywhere. We've got the kind of accents, the kind of brand guidelines this was designed to. So this is very much to spec of what a Quadrant F1 car would kind of look like, really, in reality, if we ever had one. And I just think it looks gorgeous, I think, in my opinion. I mean, we've got the fading on the engine cover with the kind of, guild effect. And then you've got so many nice sponsors on the front that make it look like an actual proper thoroughbred Formula 1 car, like a real actual team. And then the halo, I think, on board is going to look really cool with the Quadrant logo on the halo and the kind of plus signs, as well as the little details that are kind of synonymous with the Quadrant branding so far with the team. And it's not just the car itself that looks peng. I think the overalls this year that I've designed for Season 7 look really, really good. And there you can now finally see them on my character as well, in-game, as well as Lando there. But confirmation there, 100 rated Lando Norris, as all our teammates have been for the last few seasons. But this is the thing now. Every time an AI comes to our team, and if they leave us, they leave a better driver permanently. know, we've seen that with Gasly, we've seen that with Verstappen, Sainz. So I'm really excited to see what Lando's AI could do in game, and if he steps up, we've got so many drivers then that are going to be on it. So this season could be even more competitive somehow. And I'm really excited to also show you guys not only this change with our team, but we've also got a few changes for the other AI teams. So like we've done in the previous seasons, we're going to try and keep this series as fresh as we can with the new liveries and kind of new stories for each team. And so we've got some really nice mods for Season 7. So we're going to kick things off with the Mercedes team. So for the last few seasons, we actually made them return to being a proper silver arrow, but now we're returning to the black Mercedes. And this is a fantasy livery designed by Roche Racing, who I believe designed the Aston Martin BWT livery we've been using for the last few seasons. And actually, a big shout out to Peter. I'll link his channel and Twitter below. Definitely check him out because he's such a fantastic modder. And Peter, if you're watching this, I'm actually using, I think, in total 3 of your livery mods for this season. So just mega work, mate. Absolutely awesome. So this Mercedes one, as you can see, really stunning, beautiful. I love the black and red, and it's just enough red to keep it a little bit separate from obviously the Ferrari and stuff, and it's a different tone of red. But this is a fantasy livery. If Ineos, I think that's how you pronounce it, probably got it wrong, but if that sponsor was a title sponsor of Mercedes, so they've increased their stakeholding in the Mercedes team, and so they've become the main side pod sponsor, and the livery is now a fully blacked out livery with red accents, and I think it looks absolutely naughty, so mean. And the Mercedes team, the car, looks so quick at times last season, so I'm sure this team will be looking as aggressive going into this next one. McLaren is going to retain the Gulf Racing livery we've been rocking for them for the last 2 seasons, just because I think a lot of you really have enjoyed this livery. You know, not too different from the original one, but that kind of, you know, subtle Gulf blue really just adds to the livery, and also on the halo as well. So the McLaren team will be staying put, but of course, they've just lost Lando Norris. We've signed him, so the big question mark is, that we'll answer a little bit at the end of this video, who are they going to sign to replace them? Because they won 4 races last year. If you actually think about it, they, I think, won the most races as a single team. So there's a big ask of, can they step up finally again, like they did back in season, what was it, season 4, when it was when it was Norris v Sainz? Can they actually step up and become a title challenger once again? Because they technically were the most successful team last year in terms of out-and-out win. Red Bull is finally going to have a little bit of a change. It's a bit of a subtle change, but it's a change enough. I think that's a nice one, because you can see now the Honda stickering has been replaced by some Mugen logos. I think I pronounced that probably wrong, but just excuse me. But that's obviously the kind of separate company that in the past in motorsport has taken on Honda projects, Honda PUs, and developed them and kind of, you know, ran them for other kind of Japanese series specifically. There was maybe question marks of would they come and actually partner Red Bull in real life. So I think for our career mode series, it's kind of nice to have that fantasy confirmation here for our career mode rather than in real life, that they are going to come in and step in and be the partners of Red Bull for their power supplier. A bigger change comes to Racing Point in-game. Of course, we can't change their name to Aston Martin consistently. It'd be a bit too much work, so they are going to be still called Racing Point, but now we've got a full-on Aston Martin livery. Again, I believe made by Roche Racing. He made actually the previous one, so again, massive shout out to Peter. It did an amazing job, and it's a really nice, tasty livery with the British Racing green, so not quite the mint green that Aston Martin have in real life, but obviously I don't want this to be a copy of, you know, I don't want this to turn into a 2020 mod series. It's meant to kind of stay put, stay a bit original, stay a bit fantasy-like, so it's kind of a different livery, but in that kind of way, I really like it. In terms of, you've got the lime green as well, that Aston Martin Racing have been known for in their GT categories, and overall a really tasty looking livery. And again, like McLaren, you know, Racing Point were looking very quick. They have looked quick for the last 2 seasons. You know, Lance Stroll was so good in season 5. Albon was the one that stepped up last season. So is the team going to change? Will there be any driver transfers for them? We don't know yet, but you know, whatever the case, the car should be still quick. But can they finally find that consistency they've been lacking to really take a fight to the top teams there? We'll have to see. We're going to be retaining the Fantasy Alpine livery that we had for Renault last season. Obviously, kind of a mod maker's take on the Alpine livery compared to the one in real life, but I really like it, and you guys seem to as well. So we're just going to stick with that one, the one we had from season 6. Pretty simple. Williams is finally going to have a different look, and it's basically the same sort of livery, but just in blue. And this is a fantasy livery. If that coffee company, Lavazza, if I pronounced that wrong, probably again, as I did in the predictions video I did earlier in the year, has taken over as like a main title sponsor. Ironically, Ironically, though, in our career mode, if you've been watching, Latifi's not even in Williams anymore. He was at Alfa Romeo in Season 6, so ironically, it doesn't even line up that much really anymore, but it's just a nice change to maybe just change up a little bit at the back of the grid. But to be fair, Williams scored 4 points last season. I think they beat Renault, Haas, and Alfa Romeo, so maybe those 4 points, maybe that budget, because they'll get some extra prize money for that, of course, from Season 6 to Season 7, maybe that prize money can be enough to actually start taking them into the midfield fight. We might actually see them, you know, actually qualifying into Q2 and doing something maybe to try and get some more points this season. Who knows? And then we come to the teams that haven't changed. The Ferrari car is very unmoddable in the game, and to be fair, the Ferrari's a Ferrari. It's always going to be red, bit of classic really, so the Ferrari's going to stay put. Obviously, Leclerc gave us a really good run for the money. I'm sure he'll be there again, but you never know. Ferrari have been a bit up and down in our series so far. They've been kind of there at times, look so dominant and quick at others, and then look so slow. So who really knows what the game's going to have in store for us in terms of their AI performances and what the car's going to do in terms of consistency. And now we're just going to rattle through the last 3 teams that really are unchanged. The cars are very difficult to mod, but also these cars haven't really featured that heavily in our series so far, so I don't feel like there's no need to kind of build a storyline into these teams because they haven't really featured too much in the races, you know, in terms of battling us and battling the other AI cars that kind of we've been racing in the championship. So AlphaTauri, Alfa Romeo, and Haas will stay put as the same thing. Maybe if they want to pull the finger out their asses maybe and kind of get up into the midfield fight, maybe in a future season we'll think about building a bit of a storyline into them. But that is what the new grid is looking like for our Season 7 of Career Mode. And so that brings us on nicely to the remaining part of this video, which is to go through the driver market to see what driver transfers are going to happen. Probably not going to be that many, because as we've kind of noticed, unfortunately, the game is very rigid with its driver transfers, unfortunately. We got very lucky early on in this series with a lot of them in Season 2, but ever since then, it's not been enough. I for one, I've been a bit critical of that. They do definitely need to make it more aggressive and just a bit more fantasy and a bit more fun for us in next year's game. But nonetheless, there will be some driver transfers to talk about, because obviously we've stolen Lando away from McLaren. So starting off here at the bottom of the pack, Williams will retain Jack Aitken, Luca Giotto. Now, as I said in the kind of preview, we're looking at the team and the new car livery. You know, that team did score more points than Renault, Alfa Romeo, and Haas, so maybe with that extra budget, maybe they could push on. Luca Giotto was getting into a lot of crashes at the end of the last season, causing some safety cars, so maybe he can stop doing that. And maybe with Aitken, one of our former teammates, maybe they can just try and get a bit more amongst it in the midfield fight. Renault, the Alpine livery team, retain Nobuharu Matsushita and Danica Kvyat. Actually, quite funnily enough, Kvyat in real life is now a reserve driver for Alpine, so kind of a bit of a crystal ball moment there that we've had for the last 2 seasons. I think Kvyat's been at the Renault team. Red Bull retains Sainz and Ricciardo, which, no surprise there. I mean, to be fair, Sainz won a race, but ever since that, they really dropped off. They did come back a little bit at the end of the season, and the circuits where downforce was more dependent, they did improve, but they really did look off the pace. They kind of fell off the wagon a bit, you know, with a car that just didn't work too well anytime that you need some straight line speed. So, I don't know, with maxed out cars, it's going to be more about, you know, what the game internally underneath in the coding, whatever it wants to do in terms of season to season, because we've seen it in this career mode so far, that the AI coding, the kind of the way the AI drive seems to be varied season to season. It matters about momentum in winning races, so maybe fortunes might change for Red Bull. We go to Mercedes then, obviously that rebrand of the Ineos sponsor taking over the team, so we've got the red and black overalls, and Pierre Gasly and Verstappen stay put, which was I'm all for, because this was a fantastic team last season. Gasly obviously ran us right to the line, had a bit of an unfortunate final race, but you know, he really did give us a good run throughout the entire season. He became the team leader. He stepped in and took place of Hamilton, because obviously we signed Hamilton away from Mercedes at the start of Season 6, and he came in and actually became the team leader, which I was surprised at, because Verstappen was so good in Season 5. So that's going to be an interesting teammate battle between Verstappen and Gasly, and if both of them are firing at all cylinders, that will be a very hard team to beat maybe once again in this brand new season. Now, this is the big one. McLaren. We stole Lando away from McLaren, and they haven't gone and signed Russell. He's not gone the other way. They've gone and signed Lewis Hamilton, which is just all full circle. So Hamilton, we already had a bit of nostalgia with Hamilton driving a Vodafone chrome silver Mercedes car last season in our team, and now we've got the proper nostalgia. If he's actually gone home, he's gone to the first team he was with in Formula 1. He's gone back to McLaren. So this truly should should be the last stint of his career. Like, you know, he's gone home, he's ending it where it started off. Maybe now, is this the season where at the end of this one, he maybe retires? Because I'm still so shocked that he's driven so poorly in this career mode now of ours in the last few seasons that he's not had the in-game mechanic where, you know, he's retired. You know, we've had Raikkonen and Vettel retire ages ago, but despite him being so bad, he's not retired, so surprising. But like I said, with Ocon winning 2 races last season, McLaren won 4 races in total, they could be a threat if they're consistent enough, and maybe this is the time for Hamilton to be reinvigorated, who knows. Haas retained Mick Schumacher and Kevin Magnussen, like I said, kind of back markers, nothing really to talk about there. Ferrari retain Leclerc and Giovinazzi. To be fair, personally, I actually really like this pairing in Ferrari. You know, the Italian of Giovinazzi in an Italian team alongside Leclerc, and to be fair, Giovinazzi at times has looked very quick and has beaten Leclerc, but Leclerc was the more consistent one last season, and he's kind of become a definite big rival of ours alongside Gasly. You know, he's been in a title fight with us 3 times now over the last 6 seasons. So Ferrari, I'm sure they will be a threat. Again, though, it's going to be a big question mark of how the game decides these AI drivers are going to drive. Will Leclerc be as quick as he was last season, or will he be as slow as he was at the end of Season 5, maybe, where Giovinazzi was actually beating him a few times? That's the big question mark with him, and also just really every single AI driver here in amongst the entire driver market, which is kind of nice. I really do like, I've said it a few times, I like the fact that there appears to be this mechanic in the background of the game that we have no control over, where it's just kind of momentum swings between AI drivers and how well they do. It really does keep it a bit fresh for me and for you guys. So now we come to Racing Point, the Aston Martin team, the full Aston Martin team with no BWT in sight. Albon and Stroll are retained. Now, this will be an interesting season because Stroll was the better driver in Season 5, and Albon stepped up to the plate and outscored Stroll last season. So could this be the season where they both do equally well as each other and they actually have a proper title fight bid this time? I think a lot of people would like to see that because it's been really exciting when they've won races, but they just haven't been there for the entire season. So could this finally be the one, 3rd time lucky, where they're right at the sharp end and they stay at the sharp end and they're actually consistently trying to get podiums and to actually be a threat in the Constructors' title. We'll have to basically just see. AlphaTauri retained De Vries and Bottas. You can see a pattern. Unfortunately, the only transfer that's kind of happened here so far is with McLaren and Hamilton because we stole Lando away. Like I said, for next year's game, they really, really need to look into it and change it back to having a more volatile driver market, because in a game, it's no fun. I get they need to be realistic, but it is a game. For those of us that play it up until Season 7, like I am here, they need to make it more fun, a bit more lively. So it's unfortunate Bottas and De Vries in AlphaTauri, and then unfortunately, Russell has gone back to his original team at Alfa Romeo. You know, at the start of Season 6, he was in this team. Then we signed him away. Hamilton went to Alfa Romeo. It's kind of a shame that basically McLaren... I kind of thought McLaren would have signed Russell rather than Hamilton, but I guess in-game, on paper, Hamilton's still a very highly rated driver, but we know in reality, on the circuit, he's so bad. So a bit frustrating to not see Russell go to McLaren, but maybe Alfa Romeo can improve a little bit. Obviously, most of the teams are maxed out, but Alfa Romeo, one of the teams that's still improving, still, you know, doing R&D, and there's been no reset of R&D, I've got to say, from Season 6 to Season 7. So maybe Russell and Alfa Romeo can actually step up a little bit and get into the midfield fight, just like I was saying about maybe Williams. But that is the driver market then. So the biggest change really is that Hamilton is returned to McLaren and we have signed Lando Norris. But that's not to mean it's not exciting, because obviously all those team previews that I did, there's so many different storylines, different things going on, so many question marks of who's going to retain their speed in terms of the individual AI drivers from one season to the next, and it's going to be massively exciting. We are returning to an opening round of the Australian Grand Prix for next season. We didn't have it last season. We're returning to Melbourne for the start of Season 7, and that video is coming out tomorrow at hopefully around 7 PM UK time. So till then, guys, if you enjoyed this pre-season video and are looking forward to a brand new season with the Quadrant AAR F1 team, then be sure to smash the like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below of all of this and looking into Season 7. If you're new around here, do get subscribed, and I'll see you guys then. Goodbye.